What's up guys, it's Eddie. Welcome to my new channel. Now some of y'all who do know me, you know that I have another channel where I just strictly talk about reselling stuff on eBay. I use it mainly as a way to document and monitor my business and how it's going. And something I really love doing. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy that. But this channel I want to do something else that I really enjoy, something I have a passion for, and that's terrain building. It's something I've kind of dabbled in and had a hobby in for a few years now. I've made several pieces of terrain that I have around here that I've donated to the store or whatever, right? Now, I know that there's plenty of people out there who do make terrain that are a lot better than me, and I'm not trying to do what they're doing at all. I just kind of wanted to do my own thing. One thing to note about me is that I shake really bad. My hands shake, so I have a hard time painting miniatures and doing terrain and stuff. And so I've kind of developed my own methods and ways to do things. And for me, it's just, I try to make the simplest way to do it, and so the terrain looks pretty decent. Since I shake so bad and I can make this stuff, for anybody who does watch these videos, you should have no problem making this terrain at all. Now, a couple things to note about what I'm going to do with my channel and these videos. I plan on putting out videos, how to make certain terrain, and later on down the road I may expand and get more into the wargaming side of it. Right now I'm just more interested in doing videos on terrain. And so that brings me to the next thing that I'm planning on doing with my videos, and that is every single time that I make terrain in my videos, I'm going to give them away. And each video I'll probably do something a little different on like what you have to do to put in for the raffle, I guess you could say, where I'll just give them away. And because of my side business where I sell on eBay and I ship stuff constantly, I can ship this stuff anywhere in the world. I have no problem with that, and I'll do it completely free of charge. It doesn't really hurt. This stuff's super light. As of right now, that's the way I'll stick to it. That brings me to this video right here. So this video is a simple how to make alien rock terrain. It's something I've picked up a few methods from people, but mostly it's my own take on it. I just decided one day that I kind of wanted to have some alien rocks on my board, and I'd never seen anybody else kind of do it. All the rocks I see look so just generic earth rocks, and I don't know, I just figured since, a lot of times I was playing like 40k and all that, and they're not always going to be just on these random planets, so I just figured why not have something more extraterrestrial. So I kind of created this concept, and I thought, you know what, I'll just make some. I made 3 of the pieces, and when I raffle this off at the end of this video, by the way, watch to the end of the video and you'll see how you can win this. I made 3 of them, so I only really do a video on how to make one of them. I think it's this one was the videos on. But I made 3 of them, and I'll give them all off to one person. As I went back and saw some of the video that I made, because I recorded all that first, obviously, and then I decided to come back and kind of do this part where I'm talking here. And I went back and was watching some of the video, and I realized that the lighting isn't great, the camera angle isn't great. Bear with me, this is my first video doing this. Usually I'm doing like a vlog. I have, the GoPro where I just kind of stick it on my chest and go garage sales and thrift stores, which you can't really do now but because of the pandemic. But since I'm stuck at home, I'd always plan on making a channel and doing these videos. I figured since I have more time now, I would go ahead and do it. So yeah, anyway, bear with me as these videos, they will get better. I do have a camera very capable of doing 4K. I don't have a computer capable of rendering 4K, and I'm working on that one too. All right, so let's get into it.
Okay, so this was just an interesting piece of styrofoam that I found. I like the way it looked already. I have to really tear it apart and make it shape the way I want it to. And right here I'm just gonna size it up and cut around the base and try to just make a base for it. Now you can use a pen to draw it or a pencil, but I typically like to make it easier on myself, and I just go ahead and use the hobby knife to cut around the base there. You can see I'm trying to make this more of an oval circular shape. It just looks better to me. Some people like to do square bases for this stuff. I don't. I typically like the circle base. And it's just going to cut this around, just kind of do a quick little small indentation, just like tracing it, and then I'm going to go back behind that and then cut it out using the lines I've already started. Now typically once you've already got the line started, when you couldn't use a hobby knife, it's a lot easier to go ahead and cut it out the exact shape anyway. Now bear with me, this is a little difficult trying to hold this down away from me as I'm trying to show you with the camera as well. Now I'm just going to go back around with the hobby knife and kind of cut at an angle on the edges, just to angle off the end so you can make it look more like a natural incline. Now after I finish cutting off the angles from the foam board, I'm just going around and cutting off any little excess little bit of paper that's hanging over the edges. And then when I'm done with that, I'm going to put the foam back on just to double check to make sure I didn't cut it too short.
Now I'm just going to take just some regular PVA glue, or school glue as some people might call it, and I'm just going to glue the foam onto the base. See, I was messed up there and started painting the base. But no, I just use like an old paintbrush, one I don't really care about, but they don't typically get damaged really because I don't let them dry. I just put the glue on real quick, and then after that I'll just wash it off with some water at the sink. And right now you're going to have to bear with me. I just had to move outside because my son woke up from his nap, so you may get some nature sounds in the background. Just, you know, it'll be alright, guys. You just be soothing nature sounds, that dad life. So, and after waiting a little while for the glue to dry on the foam, I'm going to come back and add a little spackle here. As you just saw me show you, there's just a small canister of spackle paste. And you see the right there's a much bigger canister. It's the same brand, same exact kind. I have a lot of this stuff. I use it a lot. I don't typically use this for rocks because there's much better spackle for using. This is a cheaper and lower quality, but it works just fine for this. This is just an extraterrestrial rock terrain. You can still use this for normal rock. It just takes a little more doing. Yeah, so I'm just going to take it, I'm just going to lather it on. I'm not worried about it looking pretty or nice. I'm just going to go through and shove as much of it as I can. And yeah, I got this stuff from Home Depot, so it's not cheap, but it's, you know, relatively cheap as far as other spackle goes. Yeah, and so then once I'm done, I'm going to come back over it, and I'm going to kind of use my fingers to kind of do this tap on thing to make it just weird looks to it. I'm going to rub my fingers around in those other spots to make it, you know, just the weirdest formation I can come up with, because this is alien rock, but I don't want it to look too normal. Now after this is completely done, I am going to wait for it to dry, obviously. Once it's really good and dried, I'm going to take it outside and spray paint it. And I use a flat black to spray paint. Now, one thing to know is that if you don't get this foam completely covered, and it's almost impossible to do, the spray paint will eat away at the foam, as well as the edges of the foam board. So just expect that. It's okay. You can actually use that for certain other kind of terrain making, and I'll show you some videos on that later on. Now I brought this in a little early. Some of the tops of the part of the rock were still a little wet from the paint, so I just decided to go ahead and start on the base. Now off screen I went ahead and based this, and I based it. I just went ahead and used the spackle to base it, and then spray painted it all when I was done. Now as you saw there, I'm starting off with a burnt umber. This is the only real step I'm going to do on the base right now. Later on I'll finish up the base, and I'll remind you exactly what I used. But all I'm really going to do is go over every little bit. Alright, so this was spray painted in black. I'm going to do almost like a dry brushing technique, but heavily dry brushed. And I'm not too worried about having an actual dry brush. It's just that kind of hitting the top parts, and it's really heavy. I want it to have very little black showing through. It's just going to be the very, you know, deep crevices that are going to be still black. Now I just wanted to slow this down real quick, just so I can give you a quick example. When I talk about I have really shaky hands, as you can see there, yeah, my hands are shaking really bad right now. So I'm not too worried about doing anything to try to get precision, because I'm just painting the base stuff anyway. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of show you a quick example. Now I'm just going to go back over this because I've already had this spray painted black. It kind of saves a step for me. I'm going to do another heavy dry brush, just like I mentioned before with the burnt umber, but now I'm doing it with a paint called Pavement, and it's like a darker gray, and I'm just going to go over this rock, the rock part. Now when you're doing this, you're not always going to see the difference between the black and the dark gray. It's just like a step between what you're going to do next. I've tried skipping this and seeing what would happen, and it looks horrible. So trust me on this one. Make sure you do this. Now after that dries, you're going to move on to the next color, which is the Granite Gray you see there on the screen. And this is a similar method before. You're going to do some dry brushing, except now you're going to do a much lighter dry brush. And you're just going to take some, and you're going to put on the brush, and you're going to take the brush and try to brush away as much as you can, so where there's just barely any coming off of it. And then from that point on, you're going to brush it onto the actual rock. What you can't see me off screen is me messing around with the brush and trying to get it to work right. I'm trying to dry it out and make sure that I have the right amount of paint on it before I start painting. Now, this is a tip or a trick that I always use. When I first start painting, I don't always know that there's enough paint. Sometimes there's too much paint. I will start on the corners and edges of the rock, the parts that's going to have the edges to it. And so if it is a little too much and it's brighter, it's more of that gray than I wanted, It doesn't matter. Typically, you want the brighter spots to be on the edges and corners anyway. And honestly, if it does happen, it makes it look better anyway. So like, I don't have a problem. And usually I kind of do that on purpose. As you can see there, I'm trying to point out a spot where the styrofoam broke off and I have to fix it. It's not a big deal. That's the beauty of this method. If part of the styrofoam does break off, or if you do make a mistake, it's easily to fix. You know, you can just go back to the next step and put that dark gray over that spot, and then once it dries, come back and try it again. Now, as I'm finishing up with this step, if this is all you're looking for, is like a rocky look, you can actually just stop here. But we're going to continue because I really want that alien look, and so we're going to move into some greens. Now for the next step, we're going to use a Caliban Green, and we're going to do a pretty heavy dry brush over this whole, just the rock section. We're not doing the ground yet, and what we're trying to work towards is more like a glowy green rock to this. And a quick note on all these paints I've used. I think this is the first time I've used anything that wasn't purchased from Walmart. All the other paints are easily bought from Walmart for really, really cheap. This is a Games Workshop. It can be traded out for like a darker green. I just didn't have anything on hand, so I used it. Now another quick note for this step, once you start using the green, you're going to have all your little white spots that you didn't really fill in are going to start showing up really well. I just go back through and get a small precision brush and make sure I hit it with that darker green, in this case the Caliban Green, and just fill all those white spots in, because they don't look good anymore. Now if you're just using regular rock, a few white spots actually doesn't look bad. You can't hardly tell it's there when you finish product, but when you're starting to turn it into this green alien rock, it'll be very noticeable. So go back through and make sure you fill in all of those little spots. Now for the next shade, we're going to use a crisp green, and we're going to go back over what we just did with the Caliban Green, but we're going to go over with a lighter dry brush. We're going to try to just hit the higher points, leaving some of that darker green underneath. Now for the next and final shade for the rock, we're just going to use a lime tree, and this is the brightest color. I think this is what's going to give it most of the glowy look. And you're just going to do like an even lighter dry brush, really quick and fast. Shouldn't take you long at all. Now you can take this a step further if you want and use like a glow in the dark. I suggest watering it down. I didn't do that because I kind of use that for other jobs and I don't want to run out of it. Now we're going to continue working back on the base part, and if you remember earlier, we started this off with a burnt umber, and now we're going to go to a real brown, and we're going to do a kind of heavy dry brush here. Now the next shade is a bark brown, and we're going to do an even lighter dry brush than before. And the reason why I'm doing so many different browns is because I'm kind of gradually edging myself away from this brown, and I want to finish with an orange color. You could probably skip a few of these in between browns, but I just kind of like that gradual look. Now the next color we're going to be using is a burnt sienna, and you're just going to go right back over the base again and do like a lighter dry brush. And yep, I know this is a lot, but bear with me guys, we're almost done. Now the next color we're going to be using is Territorial Beige. Now I told you could skip some of the browns in between. This is probably not one you want to. This is a step, the link between the browns and the orange, so when we do have our orange at the end, this is what's going to make it look pretty good. So please don't skip this part. Now finally we've made it to our last paint, and this is Tangerine. This is the orange I was talking about. We're just going to take this a little bit, we're going to do a light dry brush over what we've already done. Now
It depends on how much you want it to look. Most of the time this is going to look pretty similar to the beige. I like to do a little bit heavier dry brush here than I had done with the beige. I want the orange to kind of stick out.
Alright guys, that's the method that I use for making it. I know there's other methods out there and other materials you can use. These are just the simplest, cheapest methods that I know. And now, for the way that you can win this terrain is simple. You just need to like, subscribe, and comment on this video. Today's Friday. I'll plan on having this video out at least by Monday. I'll say by next Friday I will do the drawing. I'll put a short little video and I'll call out who it is. And then I'll tell you in that video what you're going to need to do to contact me so I can send you your terrain. Thanks for watching, guys. And if you like this video or got any value from it, please give me a thumbs up. And if this type of video that you do like, you know, terrain and wargaming, give me a subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of my future videos, which I will be doing more. And y'all have a good night.